There's this game called Battlebit Remastered, and at first glance at the Steam page, you're probably not going to think a whole lot of it. Take a second look though, because this thing is absolutely blowing up on the charts. It's already sold over 1.8 million units in just 2 weeks, and the player count continues to trend upward. But what is it? Why is it so incredibly popular, seemingly out of nowhere? Well, the short answer is that it's Battlefield, but not made by EA, and for a lot of people, that's enough. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, we ask the question, what the hell is Battlebit? So, there's obviously more to the answer than that. While I'm sure that's enough to bring a lot of people in the door, it's mainly to peek their heads in and see what the hell's going on, so I'll go a little more in depth. Well, 12 minutes worth of in-depth. Otherwise, I'm not really doing my job, am I? Everyone wants to love Battlefield. Even now, the scope of those games is awe-inspiring, but EA and DICE seem like they're going out of their way pretty much every time to make the experience of actually playing it as frustrating as possible. Battlefield 2042 was a disaster at release, and yeah, it's in a better state now. It's still not the game a lot of fans wanted. It's too far from the original formula, and it's missing a lot of key features that people have come to expect from the series. Seriously, it took until February this year for them to finally bring back classes. Even it's still awkwardly grafted onto the specialist system. It has gotten better, but it is too little too late. Most players have just moved on, and there's not really any proper Battlefield out there, so it was kind of the perfect time for a little scrappy indie to swoop in and steal the show from the big AAA publishers, who don't even have something that looks like what Battlefield is supposed to be on the horizon. So it's a three-man team of Sergeant Okie Dokie, Velasquez, one of those two, and the Liquid Horse, who decided to make the Battlefield game that they wanted to play. It looks like Battlefield crossed with Roblox, but believe me when I say this game is the real deal. It somehow manages to capture what makes Battlefield 3 and 4 so great while adding a few new features on its own. For anyone nostalgic for the feeling of the older games of this series, I'm gonna say right now, Battlebit Remastered is a must-buy. It's only $15, and even though it's in early access, it's got a ton of game modes, great maps, and great features. That's not to say the visuals are not going to take a little bit to get used to, but it just goes to show that a game doesn't need next-generation graphics to still be fun to play. You might be wondering, just like I did, why they called Battlebit Remastered. Well, that's because they actually originally put the game up on Steam Greenlight 6 years ago, and it was more of a hardcore simulation back then. Yes, they have been updating, improving, and playtesting the game for that long, and it didn't even start seeing any real jump in player counts until 2022, and it's just been basically snowballing from there. So, how does it actually play? Well, mostly like Battlefield. You pick a class, drop into a map with hundreds of other players, and fight over control points. Killing players lowers that team's tickets, and the team that runs out of tickets first loses. Because there's so many players, the maps themselves are massive, and to get around, you can use jeeps, APCs, ATVs, helicopters, tanks, the standard stuff, and they all control similarly to Battlefield. That means helicopters are going to take some getting used to for people who aren't used to it. Tilting the mouse to control the helicopter's pitch and yaw, it's going to lead to a few unnecessary crashes until you get the hang of it, but Battlefield players should feel right at home. If there's one thing I do really like about the helicopters in Battlebit, it's the zip line. You don't just have to jump out of a helicopter in this line. You can actually zip down to the ground or just hang off the rope like an action hero. It's one of those little features that isn't strictly necessary, but it's great. Vehicles in general can take a little getting used to if you're used to how forgiving they can be in other games. These things are pretty heavy and unwieldy and like to stick on things. They can be a little awkward to use until you get used to it, but I think the game does a pretty good job balancing how powerful vehicles are compared to infantry. They're good assists, but they don't dominate the game. The classes themselves are what you'd expect. Each team's split into squads with one leader who can issue commands and has access to some special deployables. There's Assault, Medic, Engineers, Support, and Recon. Assault's your frontline guy, Medics can heal, Engineers get a rocket launcher, Support can drop ammo boxes and have thicker armor, and Recon is your sniper. It's Battlefield, and it works. That is to say, you will be familiar with most things, but there are a few twists to the formula, like the Assault Sledgehammer, which can smash through walls, or how everyone starts with bandages that can be used to revive teammates. Death comes fast in this game, so making it so any class can revive somebody is a relief. The medic's got a lot more bandages, as well as a first aid kit, while the regular classes tend to have about 3 to start out. As long as your team knows what they're doing, though, you can survive for quite a while. Another relief is there's no awkward downed mechanic in this game. Instead, your allies can just grab your body and pull it somewhere safer before attempting to revive, which works very well and keeps things fast-paced. Of course, it's likely you'll just immediately die again after being revived, but it's still worth a shot. You're probably going to die a lot in this game. It's Battlefield, and that means a lot of deaths that just seem like they come out of nowhere. But respawning's nice and fast. Getting back to the action's super easy, and most likely if there's somebody else around, they'll probably revive you. If you're not used to it, it can be frustrating, but that's just how these games are. With so many players running around, it's kind of inevitable you get caught out in the open. It happens, and there are just as many moments where you'll get the drop on enemies as well. So it is very satisfying when you do it, to be fair. It's just that kind of game. Even though you're just one tiny cog in the machine, your actions can really matter, because everybody has the power to revive, and players can get into combat so quickly. The rare times when a clutch play swings the momentum of battle in your team's favor, it has a big impact. And that's something I appreciate about Battlebit. There's not a lot of downtime. Yeah, if you want, you can slowly trudge from one corner of the map to the other on foot, but the game gives you so many options to get around fast. It's kind of rare that you run into the Battlefield 2042 problem, spending half your time just trudging around the map. Spawning on teammates is extremely generous. As long as they're not literally shooting or getting shot, the game lets you respawn next to them. The gigantic battlefield's definitely the biggest draw, but the game has a robust selection of game modes as well. Outside of the big 254-player maps, there's slightly more manageable 128-player games and the more tactical 64-player games, but it actually doesn't stop there. It goes all the way down to 8 versus 8 and has game modes to match, like Team Deathmatch, Free-for-All. There's a lot of possible modes here and an impressive selection of maps. Like, there's over 20 in the game already, so there's a lot of variety. Just about every possible map type is here. There's tropical islands, a snowy valley, dense city environment, nuclear power plant. It's a lot, and with so many maps to choose from, it's enough to keep things from getting stale. There's already more maps in Battlebit than in Battlefield 2042. Come on in. They're not all the best or anything, but I haven't seen anything where certain maps feel completely unbalanced, at least not yet. There's even Levolution where you can destroy massive structures, and that greatly affects how the map's played, and it feels a lot better integrated in the gameplay in Battlebit. There's already so much stuff you can destroy in this game, so it feels natural to take down a cooling stack or knock over a lookout tower. You can't smash everything, but almost everything that matters can be knocked over. And for a game with such simplistic visuals, you'd think the gameplay'd be simple, but it's not. It has all of the FPS staples from all these types of games. You can aim down sights, you can crouch, go prone, lean around corners, mantle up ledges. It's fast, it's not extreme though, and it works well for the game it's trying to do. Shooting feels surprisingly good, and there are a lot of attachments you can put on weapons. Some guns definitely better than others. The Vector's a popular choice at the moment, but I managed to make do with the class starting weapons. They all feel just fine. One kind of odd feature I'm not so sure about is the reload system. Kind of feels like a holdover from the game's more hardcore beginnings, and it feels out of place with what the game is now. Instead of a bullet count, you got a few clips on your UI. That's all your ammo, and the ammo isn't shared automatically between clips. There's the standard slow reload, but you can also quickly reload pressing R twice. Then you drop the possibly partially used clip and get a new one faster. You can even press P to combine ammo into one clip. It's a lot. There's a lot going on here. I rarely ever felt like it got in the way of things, but I'm just not sure that it adds anything to the gameplay. It feels kind of gimmicky and otherwise pretty cohesive package. There's parts of it that still feel like early access, like the tutorial, very, very bare bones. You're pretty much forced to learn on the fly while playing. Not that that's a bad thing. Other weird kind of early access feeling thing. There's night variants of maps that have players use night vision to see in the dark. I've never managed to get a game on them though, and certain environments are a little too empty. Some people might not love the weapon unlock system either. There's no battle pass or daily missions or anything like that, thankfully. It is a simple experience track that unlocks equipment as you rank up, but it's still one of those things that puts new players at a disadvantage. There are a lot of ways to get experience though, so as far as these things go, it's about as harmless as you could want. Another thing a lot of people complain about about, but I'm not sure is actually a problem, is mines. Everyone gets them as a secondary, like new players get AP mines when you level up, and you could eventually unlock claymores. As defensive tools, they're obviously great, but having almost every character get 3 of them every time they respawn feels like it could be overkill. Like, they are kind of all over the place. If you know to look for them, they're not as big a deal, but having to constantly check your corners for mines does get a little old. Like classic Battlefield, what makes the game great are the memorable moments, the desperate last stands where you somehow manage to survive, or the moments of real teamwork. Just being part of a massive attack with helicopters, jeeps, tanks, it feels great. And the best of all, I experienced literally no server issues. Clearly the devs were pretty serious about the netcode, and it really paid off, because my experience with the game was smooth. Like, not indie game smooth, like very smooth. It looks like an indie game, and the sound design is clearly inferior to anything in the Battlefield series, which is of course still best in class when it comes to sound in FPS games, but those are relatively minor issues compared to how good the gameplay is. The whole thing feels like a labor of love. These guys know what made older Battlefield games feel so satisfying, and they didn't just copy it, they managed to make some smart changes on top of that. Visually, not gonna wow anybody, but the simple visuals make everything extremely easy to read and see. Also, they have motion blur turned off by default, so these guys clearly get it. With all that said, Battlebit Remastered is basically Battlefield crossed with Roblox. There's just not any getting around that, but that's so much less good than saying the words Battlefield crossed with Roblox implies. 3 guys managed to do what one of the biggest publishers in the industry couldn't: make Battlefield relevant, fun, and as good as it's ever been once again. All they had to do was make a fun game. Weird. It's really not that hard, EA. You got all the money, you got hundreds of people on any team at any given time. Why do these guys do it when you can't? They're 3 guys. Seriously, there's a reason why they've sold 1.8 million units of a $15 Battlefield knockoff. 3 guys. And I don't want to end this on a for shame EA, you suck EA. I want to end saying good job, guys. Seriously. Well done. You have impressed everyone. And all the Battlefield fans out there are going to be very thankful. I hope everything continues to grow and do well for you guys. That's all for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. So click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications. And as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter @FalconHero. And we'll see you next time right here on gameranx.